We are now at 3,781 applications. That is up 199 in a week, which may be our biggest week of applications ever. Alrighty, time for another raw update into what's going on in my world. Other Mondays of living life on the road, of trying to figure out this game of business and game of life. This one, as usual, I've got some little dot points on my laptop. I'm going to run through these. If you stick around to the end, good on you. If not, that's totally fine, because as I said in last week's message, I really just want to film these so I can document them for myself to look back on in years to come, and for my friends and for my family. And we're going to have a space for all of the fancy high production videos, all the cinematic stuff. So you can subscribe if you want to see those later. But today it's just a raw update. What's been happening in my world and in Armand's world over the last 7 days. You'll see I am in my coziest of clothes because we have jumped out of Melbourne for a couple of days into the Dandenong Mountains to get a little bit of rest and relaxation and a change of scenery. It's been cozy, rainy, but beautiful, and a nice reset from what was honestly a wonderful but wild and draining week. It was a mix of a lot of things, catching up with people I love, keeping the business going and trying to make some big moves in the meantime. Also, just dealing with a couple of heavy days that show up when I'm run down and tired. And this is Monday Journal. I think it's 32. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm losing count now. But the theme with this week is just balance. Trying to balance normal life, in my home, where the place where I grew up, while still building the business and still trying to figure everything out. So let's jump into it. What's been happening this week? Well, first of all, nice to be in a new spot, of course. We only just arrived here in this wonderful but arguably haunted place. We have a downstairs basement that seems to be connected to the house, but like beds aren't made. There's shit everywhere, so don't know what's going on down there. So we're just going to stay up here for this couple of days. But nice to be in this spot because there was a lot of catch up last week. I find that every time we come back to Melbourne, it's so nice to see everybody, but also a lot of driving, a lot of organizing, a lot of sharing stories, and my social battery isn't what it used to be. So hold that thought. Anyway, what else has been happening is that on the Art of Monday side, we've started running some ads to the founder family, which has brought in a lot of new interest, almost 200 applications in the past 7 days. That's a really great green flag. Now it's the job of all of us to figure out how can we make sure that only the most relevant and most aligned of those applications actually become members. So I think we've done a lot of work in creating more content that will share the Art of Monday's vision and mission with the world. And now that people know about us, let's bring them into the circle. And the more people who come in, it means the more people who can create connections and more opportunities that we have to run experiences with more people. Lots of opportunities, things like that. Cool. What else? On a more personal note, it's been a mix of hopping between different cafes, planning Ev's birthday, which is a lot of fun. We'll have some footage and put it over the top of here. I think he may have thought that we forgot it, but we did not. We had some goodies up our sleeve, played some indoor soccer, and other than that, just spending time with mum and doing the best that I can to keep the business going, all while watching 6 or 7 of the Harry Potter movies. That was a bit of a raw insight into what this week in Melbourne was like. And now I'd love to share what I've been thinking about this week in both the business side and just general. So, firstly, I picked up a book that I did not finish when I thought I would many months ago. It's Ogilvy on advertising, and for anyone in the marketing, copywriting space, David Ogilvy is one of the very best from the 20th century, and I believe that marketing hasn't really changed that much in terms of what makes good marketing and what makes bad marketing. It's all about psychology. And what I love is just digging into his principles. It's so simple. For example, if we tie back to, say, a print advertisement, the way that people's mind works visually, there we go, is that they start with the image, then the headline, then the image caption, then the copy. So with that logic, the image should always be top and then headline below and then copy below. Many advertisers will flip it around and do headline, image, copy, but in that sense, it's unnatural for the reader and therefore a little bit harder to digest what's going on. So many subtle things. I recommend that book. I'm almost finished now after picking it up again after a few months. So check it out if you want. That's just really put my mind back into like the advertising space and how can we have the biggest impact in our marketing with the fewest ads and the fewest hours spent on those ads. And I think it really comes down to understanding who we're speaking to, understanding what are their deepest desires, what is the pain that they're experiencing every day, what does their dream life look like over here, and then where are they currently at right here, and how can we get them from A to B. And once we nail that understanding of who we're talking to, then it's just visuals and brand and stopping the scroll on top of that. But it has to come from psychology first. So that's a big emphasis that I'm working through now with the content team, because volume is there, execution is there. We've got a team of 3 or 4 editors now. The editing is great. Now let's make sure that what we're editing is actually going to have impact with the people watching our content. So that's been a big topic of discussion recently. The other thing is, I get asked this question a lot, so I thought I'd maybe share it publicly, is the idea of having a remote team, but creating culture remotely. It's okay, you can walk and see it out. We've got Reeds like tiptoeing around not to make any sound in the background. I've left my proper microphones, my wireless ones, back at my mum's place, so shout out to the guys who are being nice and quiet so we can record this. But I'll make it quick, all right. So yeah, talking about creating a team culture remotely and how can we do that when there's not that much in-person connection, besides, of course, living with some of the group. But in terms of the wider company, there's 2 things that we've introduced recently that have had a great effect and really, I think, allowed the team to feel more connected. One is running quarterly in-person events. We call them high leverage houses. And the reason is we come together with 2 purposes. One is to get to know each other and actually spend quality time with the people we're working with every day. And 2 is to work on high leverage tasks. So taking everything back, forgetting about the to-do lists, forgetting about the email inboxes and the WhatsApp messages, and reframing into what is the most impact I can have in the least amount of time. What's the one thing I can set up or automate or build or book once that will have flow-on effects for months, years after that. And we've run 2 of them, maybe 3 so far. And then we just booked Japan and Spain as well. And having them locked in the calendar, I think, is really valuable for the team because it gives us all something to look forward to. The other piece of advice I want to give for this, which I wish I came across earlier for us, but I really love the impact it's had for our team, is this idea of sharing in the wins. So we believe that everyone should be working with the same intention, the same mission. And we all want Art of Mondays to grow and be the best it can be, because when it does, as a team, we get access to more freedom, more opportunities, more connections, things like that. So what we did is decided what's the one metric that every team should be obsessed with. For example, should it be the amount of views for the content team, or the amount of new customers or returning customers for the Found Sports Club? We figured out what that one thing was, and we created what we call a performance pool. And that means that at the end of every month, a certain percentage of revenue tied to a certain metric is put aside, split amongst the team, and then it's up to the team leads to decide who gets what percentage of that percentage. So it's not just an expectation that you get a cut because you're part of the team. It's really reserved for those who are going above and beyond, and helps us create a culture of shared wins. And if you show up and you have impact, then you'll reap the rewards. Also, it doesn't really make sense for someone who, say, is taking a month off traveling to have the same share as someone who's working long days. So that's why there's the weighted split. Cool. So 2 other things to talk about. One thing that we are looking into is company structure and personal tax reasons. tax structure, because the reality is that as founders, we're not in Australia that much time of the year. And as a business, the majority of our income is not Australian dollars, it's US dollars. So we're talking with our accountants and Jack, and I won't get into too many of the boring details, but the point is that a couple percent here and there really does add up. So we're looking into how we can recoup a couple percent, and then what opportunities can we create as a result of that. Does that mean we can book another house for the team? Does that mean that we can run a slight discount on our residencies? Could be anything, but just looking for spaces to optimize. And last point on my notes of like, what have I been thinking about? This is more of a personal, I'll say critique for lack of a better word, but I feel like I do this sometimes, but not enough. So I've been trying to think of ways I can do it more, is empowering our leaders to be more motivated so that they can be motivating their teams in the same way. And it just comes down to leading by example, doing some of it, but I feel like I can be doing a better job. And now that I'm outside of building a lot of the things that need to be built, I can focus more of my attention there. That's enough of the business side updates. Backed by popular demand, here are the traffic lights. So if you've never seen this before, highlight, learning, and challenge, green, yellow, red, based on the past week. So my highlight, shout out to my crew sitting in the lounge room over there, our family style dinners. It's so nice to come back after a day where we're all going different adventures, especially being in Melbourne, where I've often taken the car and gone and run a couple errands during the day, to come back and then be able just to be silly and debrief and feel really just calm and safe with who I'm around has been really lovely. And I'm grateful that we get to have that tradition as we travel in different parts of the world as well. My learning was that we should all make fun and downtime more accessible and frictionless. So what I did to take some action for myself, so I bought myself a Kindle and I bought myself a camera lens that is smaller, that I wanted for a while. Having those two things, small, easy, can take them with me anywhere, will encourage me to read more downtime, and encourage me to pick up the camera more fun. And my challenge of the week is, well, probably something I've already said, trying to see all my people and work at the same time. It's doable, but it's tiring. Okay, so for those of you tuning in for the Art of Monday's Founder Family numbers, here we go. We are now at 3,781 applications. That is up 199 in a week, which may be our biggest week of applications ever. We also had an extra 216 who started the application but didn't finish. And that's actually a good thing, because if they don't have the time or the want to finish the application, then we can't expect them to commit to being an active member of the community. We are at 240 all-time members for the Founder Fam. The average age hasn't moved at all for a long time. It's still 28. And the interview calendars are full for our alignment team. So if you're trying to join, but there's no availability, then just try again in a day or two, and hopefully the slot opens up. The other thing I want to highlight from our Founder Fam, before I move on to the last thing, is that we had a bunch of members get together in Bali and go out to donate food to orphans. And I'll put a screenshot or something on the screen here so you can see it, but it's just it was a really proud moment seeing like how much impact our community is having. And there's more stuff like this happening that people don't post about. Even earlier this year, for the OG fans who remember this video, I went with Jan, one of our members in Cape Town, to go donate some food to those less fortunate in an area outside of the city. So it was really cool to see that stuff is happening. And despite this being like a numbers section, I wanted to highlight beyond the numbers what actually happens. Over the next week, what can we expect? Well, spending some time here up in the hills with Stan, with Ev, and with Rach. And then it's a couple of days back in Melbourne where I cram everything in again to see people, to repack my bags for another trip of I don't know how many months. I don't know what climates, but a bit of everything. Definitely Gold Coast, heading there on Friday to go catch up with Alison and work on Wealth Walks a little bit. And then after that, a little bit is up in the air, but definitely New Zealand in January, definitely Japan in February. Not sure where to after that, possibly South America, possibly back to Australia. My point is, I'm going to have to pack a suitcase for an indefinite amount of time, which I'm pretty used to right now. So that's going to be this week, and we'll tune in next week, which will be in Gold Coast, and I'll be saying hello to you from the beach. So if you've watched all the way to the end, thank you for watching. Glad that you're finding these insightful. Let me know in the comments if you actually like this raw style, or if you think we should go back to one of the others. I'm just trying new things, trying to make it as easy as possible to document the journey so that I can look back on it for years to come. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one.